Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learnt along the way. Hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today I am introducing you to Jane Vandermeer, who is a holistic personal stylist and entrepreneur, in fact, serial entrepreneur. She's been doing it a very long time. She has two companies called Finesse Business and Style and Intuitive Whispers. And with that, you will see how her effortless style plays out throughout her successful career, which has really spanned decades since she was a wee young girl. She's also a multi-award winning Australian-made artisan with perfume oils and natural deodorants. She's all into ethical luxury so that our consumers can be feeling really happy with our conscience as we invest in products. And she's been recognized by, things like Vogue UK, for example. So welcome to the program, Jane.
Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you for such a beautiful roundup. Honestly, that's so, it's sort of humbling to hear it all together like that. When you're in it, you're just in it and looking forward. So, so it's very kind to have such a, an overview of what I've done.
Every woman I interview on this program is going to have an amazing introduction because that's why they're here. We're all sharing our journees to those other women and men listening into this podcast and watching it on YouTube as well. And it's all about, that's right. Often when we're in that journey, we don't even recognize that we're having all these achievements and we don't see ourselves in a certain way. And then that's right. When someone else introduces you, go, oh my gosh, is that me?
I agree. Because we're so busy with our, our lists and our goals and looking forward.
Yes.
And we have an achievement and go, oh yeah, great. Move on. Whereas it's only, I find, only when I probably don't even share what I do achieve, but when I do, and people say, Jane, do you realise? And I'm like, oh, yeah.
I'm friggin' kick-ass, aren't I? Well, listen, you are awesome. I mean, your career has spanned like 30 years in the fashion industry.
Yeah, I know. It sounds so grown up.
Sounding pretty impressive to me. And for those watching it on YouTube, I had to sort of glam myself up a little bit. I popped my red lippy on and my little shimmer green shirt because, let's face it, we all go, oh my gosh, I want to be sort of effortless with my style and so comfortable in the skin I'm in and how I show up. And then there's also the reality that many of us actually feel a bit, oh my gosh, I hope I'm good enough. I hope I present enough. Yeah. I hope is this right for me? So I'm so looking forward to our conversation today. And I know that our listeners are going to be tuning into your words of knowledge. So how about we start right at the beginning? Everyone's already got the scene that you're awesome in what you're going to be doing. We'll finish there. You've been, you obviously don't, still look beautiful. How have you had a 30-year career? When did you actually go into business? Was it straight out of school, early 20s? What made you do that? And why did you choose fashion?
Yeah, great question. So I suppose I'm lucky that I always knew fashion was in my blood. It was never even a decision. I remember, at school when you have careers days thinking, well, I don't need to talk to them. And I realised as I got going that I am lucky to know that, it's hard when you don't know what you want to do with your life. So I just knew. I started my first business when I was about 16 at school, making gowns for, friends, and we were going to balls and that kind of thing back then, which was right up my alley, making pretty dresses. Yeah. I started sewing up when I was about 9, and I surpassed mum quite quickly, and then I went to quite an academic school, and any of the creative subjects I really loved, and then the love of it, and being quite self-taught as well, just the hunger to learn. And I'd go into, very expensive shops and have a look at how turn things inside out, look at how they're made. Wow. Righto, how do we do that? And then work out the steps backwards. So I suppose it's that inquisitive mind. So then I studied fashion at RMIT, which was the best fashion course at that time. Now there's lots of options, actually. It's wonderful. And so I worked for a while. I've always worked full-time and part-time. I've always been hungry to learn, hungry to grow and improve myself and keep learning. And so I actually started a couture business straight out of college under my name, whilst working for other companies as well, and people I really, really admired in the bridal area and evening area. And I thought I'd do that forever. And I grew it quite big, and I realised along the way that women needed help putting together colours and shapes and style. And so before long, I was running little seminars and workshops teaching women. I realised it wasn't innate. And so I would then make, for corporate women, make wardrobes for them, because I'm like, oh, I can't find what I need for them, so let's just create it. And so I had a workroom and beautiful staff and all the rest of it.
Oh,
so I did that for a long time. Yeah.
I think that is so amazing on a couple of levels. I love that inquisitive mind, because I totally connect with that. Yeah. It's like, I don't have all the skills. Haven't done the course yet, but I'm fascinated by how it works. So you're actually turning the garments inside out, going, let's look at the stitching. Let's see how they do that. I'm that kind of mindset going, I've got no idea how you're supposed to do it, but let's just see if I can work it out. And I know with all successful people, they've got that kind of little edge. It's kind of like going, well, I'll check it out. I'll find out what the main theory is, and then I will just stick to it and try. And with that, there's a lot of epic fails. I'm sure you'll agree.
Oh, huge.
And no one comes out with a brilliant product straight away, but when you do, I love the way you've now, you turned it. You didn't just do fashion and the concepts of fashion and be able to set up a business that way. You're actually going, if I couldn't find the garment, I can even make it for someone. I mean, that is extraordinary. And I absolutely, I just honor that ability. So
thank you.
I
realized actually, as I've got older, I suppose, in your own head, you think loosely we're all the same. We all think roughly the same way, especially when we're younger. And as we get older, we're like,
we don't.
And I realized one of my superpowers is being able to look at things from a fair few different directions. I don't think in a linear fashion. I think part of that is being a creative. Creatives tend to think like this, like swirly whirly. And I think it's part of an entrepreneurial mind. And then we need to bring it back to some kind of linear fashion, because we need, spreadsheets, and we need to cost things up, and we need to, think some level of logic. So it's the combination of that. And I've realized along the way, it's like a problem solving thing of like what we've just described. Okay, how do I learn? I turn a garment inside out and I work out what a French seam is, and I try and do it. And so I taught myself all of that, and then went to university and then got taught properly how to do it. And so a combination of both is terrific. Is really terrific.
I think it is. And also then turning that into two aspects will then kick in. One, you've got your passion, you're an artist, you're creative, you're in your niche, but with that will require the actual practicalities of setting up your own business and management and other that can sometimes be the polar opposite. I'd love, so I'll tap into that in a minute, but also the aspect of that you referenced before, that, you always had a natural flair for fashion and excuse me, I've just got a little froggy there. But what we often notice, those who aren't into fashion, one, we go, oh, you find it really easy. We find it really difficult to put things together. Also knowing what suits your style, your body shape, your image. We look at the catwalk and everyone is like size 2 or something and go, but that's not normal. That doesn't suit us. So there's so many factors that when you just have that natural desire and you know what works works for you and you're naturally gorgeous, then how do you sort of then help others who it's not their natural instinct? They actually have issues with their body image, and not all garments do look great. If you've got a great bust, you look like a sack if you're in certain outfits.
Absolutely.
And therefore you need to be told to use the crossovers and different pieces. How did you approach all of that, and was that a real surprise to you, or something that you had to learn a lot more about?
So that's a great question. So in my 20s, when I had this business, I a few times dressed celebrities. And young, beautiful bodies, 20-somethings going to whatever events. And although that wasn't a wonderful experience, and I'm glad I've done it, that's actually not where my heart lies. Where my heart lies is beautiful, real women that I can build real relationships with. So one example of a lady that I dressed at in that time, and to this day, we're still friendly, and I dressed her for about 10 years. So when I met her, her bust size was about Australian size 16, her waist was around a 12, and her hips were around a 24. So she's not buying off the rack is supremely challenging. And when I met her, she was referred to come to me. And I will add, she was studying to have her PhD. She was a facilitator, amazing, intelligent, travelled the world, extraordinary, inspired, interesting woman in her own power. However, her presentation was all in beige, a bit, so the body language was, don't look at me, don't, please don't sort of, and everything was really, really, really big to hide because she was so worried about her hips and bottom. And it was like, I describe it like trying to ask a butterfly to land on my hand to earn her confidence and trust that I knew what I was doing. And, I was a fair bit younger than her, and I'm a different shape than her. What do I know? But we got there, and I got her into shapes that really highlighted her beautiful face, her beautiful hair. She had lovely skin here, showing, and this tiny waist. So showing all that off whilst looking elegant and whilst building her confidence and still looking like her, and that unique, not cookie cutter whatsoever. And so because of that, she only bought, we made all her wardrobe for a long, long, long time. Because once we had the shapes right, we had them right.
Yeah.
But what happened was the best bit, and why I do what I do, is she really flew. She walked differently. And she was a facilitator, so she was in front of crowds and teaching and lecturing and whatever. Her whole persona changed. She really came out of her shell. Now, she had all the core bits there, their education experience and everything, but she really flew. And like that bit is what it's all about to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, all these years later, we're still friends, and because it's a very intimate experience too.
Such an intimate experience. You're looking at, if I was naked virtually in front of you, and you're looking at my, my curves bit, what bits are you trying to hide, Annie? Which bits are working for you, or your lumps and bumps, which we've all got. We've all got little bits. I love that when you actually go, gosh, you've got, a beautiful neckline, or you've got, something that someone goes, is that a feature? Of course it is, because a lot of people have got sort of very unattractive speckles. They're trying to hide it with the scarf. You'll pull it out, My daughters noticed this when we went to Japan, actually, years ago. I'll just do a little sidetrack of, it was really interesting, the opposite fashion, because Japanese ladies traditionally have not much bust, but they've got hot legs. And so the fashion was, these tiny little minis showing off the legs, and then obviously, quite reserved up the top. Whereas my girls have, you sort of virtually burst into a D straight away. way. And and so you're sort of like going, oh, okay, well, you know, you're the opposite way around, but you know, I'd really like to hold the legs. And so it's a vulnerable
it is
experience. Suddenly having someone, you know, you're trying to hide it, someone would reach out to someone in your line to say, help me. But I'm also very sort of almost, you know, embarrassed, uncomfortable, you know, exposed.
Absolutely.
So I can see why you're in deep.
And so what a lot of ladies say, which look, I really value, is they say, Jane, I feel like you don't judge me, whatever that is. And like, I don't. I really admire that you are open to learn and improve yourself and better yourself. Like whenever any of us, like if you flip it on its head, if I came to you for your services, basically I'm saying, actually, I don't know enough in that area. Can you help me? Yeah. So that's me being vulnerable. So it's the same in the reverse. And another thing that comes to mind is a friend of mine who's a fashion designer. So stylish, beautiful, very curvy, a lot of weight in her hips and bottom area. And she said to me, don't you always focus on my knees? And I said, no. And I've known her 20 years. I said, I've never noticed your knees ever. And she said, oh, they're so chubby. I said, I'll tell you what I see. I see beautiful hair, beautiful face, eyes that sparkle. You know how to do your makeup really well. You've got great skin here and you have a great sense of style. That's what I look at. I don't look at your knees. You look at your knees.
You look at your knees. You look at the bit that you hate. It doesn't matter if you think your toes are a funny shape. You think everyone in the planet notices your ugly toes. It's amazing that it's like the tiny little freckle that you make a mountain. And and that's it. You know, I've even had people going, oh, if you take a photo with someone, they go, oh no, not that side, this side. And it's like, I'm looking at you. I don't even notice. Like, it's not even about that. And it's almost like a reality check. No one else notices.
No one notices.
One, they actually, you know, no one's that amazing unless you're like Oprah.
That's perfect. We've all
but also they're looking at other things. They're looking at the energy in the photo. They're looking at the are you happy? Are you smiling? Does it look like it's a good experience? There's so many other aspects.
That's it. And one of the things I teach in one of my courses is I have this image of this lady looking into herself in the mirror, and I call it the 150% mirror. So instead of looking and seeing yourself as you are, our eyes, for most women, not all, but most, look and go, and our minds magnify our hips, our bottom, our whatever the area is that we're worried about. And exactly right. Most of us don't look at that. We really don't. And to me, there are tools, you know, yes, I help with the right color, the right undertone, the right intensity, all the things so that you don't have to work so hard to sparkle. You know, you put on the right colors and immediately your eyes look clear and sharp and alive, and you don't look so tired and every spot showing up or whatever. There's that. But part of it, which I infuse along the way, is learning about yourself, why you are the way you are, and that unique, special person that you are. And when we really embrace her, because I work with women, that is what shines from within. That is what really, to me, that is a well-dressed woman. And I had a lady recently who is an ex-international model, and she wrote on the thing I wrote recently, and she said, Jane, it's so exhausting trying to keep up the facade. And I thought, yeah, you're so right. I would never have thought, A, she'd say that, but B, I look back at me 10 years ago, I look a lot younger now than I did 10 years ago. And it's that process of learning to love our idiosyncrasies and just the way we are right now, not in 5 kilos time, not when one day when I have less wobbly bits or whatever. It's right now.
It's right there in the moment, because I mean, I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of, obviously my business is coaching, but a lot of sort of out there things. And one of the comments that I often get from women is, oh, I love your confidence. As you walk into stage, you just look like you own it, or you just look so happy and whatever. And so they want the confidence, but actually I'm going, oh, like the confidence actually comes from feeling like, yes, you're prepared, you've been chosen for the purpose and all of those right things, but also that you just feel comfortable in your skin. That's right. And I love what you said before that resonated with me of you've got to look like like for me, I got told once, you've got to tone down, you're a bit too bright, you kind of palette, which was really interesting. And I looked at it and went, oh, but that's why, that does it spark joy. I went, I would never walk into a shop and be drawn to that. Whereas here I am in my studio. I'm a bright, vibrant personality. I do like bright clothes. I'm the woman CEO who walks into with all the men in the grey suits, and I just come in my floral outfit or this and that, because it actually makes me feel alive. It actually makes me feel me. Now, how I put that together, you can still be disastrous or you can be classy, but it is so important that it does feel you. And so that's what I love, the fact that you are all into honoring that person.
Absolutely.
Who they want, what do they naturally get drawn to? Like you as a young girl got drawn to sewing garments. It's almost like, well, every person on the planet gets drawn to favorite colors, even if they don't know that they're their palette. Why do they like them? Or the kind of look on a book. If what do you like seeing other people in, and who are of a similar shape to you, and those sorts of things. It is so important, right? Rather than an expert just say, wear that, it's a great outfit.
Absolutely. And so what I find is when it's very easy when you lose your way, different stages of our life, we all lose our way due to a myriad of reasons, right? And sometimes when we lose our way, and even with me, I know what I'm doing, but I've lost my way with different influences. And then what happens, I notice, is we then listen to other people. So whether it's your partner, whether it's a lovely lady in a shop, whatever, you've just got to bring it back to what is right for you. Because exactly like your colour example, for instance, without going into a lot of detail with you, like I'd never put you in like a beigey, blushy, pink kind of tone. And I can imagine, if that suited the person who was talking to you, it's very easy to impart what you love. Do you know what I mean? I'm describing it well.
I love it so much. You should too.
Exactly. And I think that's where we're not quite right. And that's where it's about your beautiful combination that really will make you fly. And the other aspect that I talk about is proportion. So like, say you are full in the bust, you've mentioned, with some of these ladies in my example, okay, well, how do we elongate the body to stretch you up and make you look taller, if that's one of the things, particularly when you're presenting and you're in command, you're running your business and doing all those amazing things, because you want to be able to walk out on stage and go, I've got this, and not be fiddling and the right shapes. You won't have to feel like you've got a hold in your tummy or your bottom or your all those things. You want to be
as even Julia Gillard, our Prime Minister, a previous Prime Minister, noticed, you can be there because you're the Prime Minister of the country. You can be there because you've got a top mind. You can be there thoroughly prepared. You can be all of those right ingredients. You might even have the right dress on, but you can wear a jacket that suddenly everyone just gets distracted by. And then eventually, even if you don't care, eventually it's like, oh, well, if everyone else isn't even concentrating on what I'm saying because of this thing, it does require a fix. There'll be other people listening in and go, I don't have to fix anything for anyone. I'm invited for my mind and I own that, and that doesn't matter. And I respect that, and I totally honor that. I'm certainly the first to say I've got positions on merit because of who I am and what I can contribute. And it should be irrelevant actually what I wear. Saying that, I also do have a very feminine side, and I do want to bring my whole self to the party. And for me, it's packaged. So I think that it is a little bit of a sensitive issue, what we're talking about.
It is. And I think one thing that I feel really, there's a couple of bits that for a long time, I kept my two worlds very separate. I kept my fashion world and my inner personal development, intuitive world very, very separate. And I realized a number of years ago they needed to come together. One's about the outside, one's about the inside. So really the two don't meet. But I believe now we're at this stage in our lives where it is about the balance of the masculine and the feminine in terms of our energy, in terms of how we present, in terms of how we build businesses and are in roles, you know, leadership roles in as an employee. And therefore, we can dress in a way that is that balance of energy.
Yes, that is a very interesting point. And I haven't thought about that. I had a man come up to me once when I was presenting, and he goes, wow, you've just got so much masculine energy in your confidence and your positioning. And, you know, the fact that, you know, I don't give a shit. You know, I'll say it as it is. I don't mind responding. He goes, that's really male. But that might be another reason why, but I also then complement it with the very girly, you know, I still at 54 do have long locks, and I, you know, I'll curl them up for a presentation, or I'll wear colors, because the feminine side possibly is actually one, it actually is who I am, but it also balances that look. Whereas if I came in the male outfit, male sort of energy, then it's like it's just too much. Now, is it too much? It's probably not too much for me, because I don't kind of in my essence care too much, but it does matter if others don't receive it. Other people find it intimidating, because at the end of the day, you're only, you know, getting out of it what other people receive, and if there's a value to the whole package, if you like.
I think that comes back to really owning where you're at and who you are. And so what I do is I work with women over a longer period of time. Like I can work one-on-one and you know, help find new outfits for presentations and do different things. But where I find real change and real guidance happens is when we work together on a longer period of time. I liken it to going to a counsellor. Going once is great, but it's going for a longer period of time, gaps in between. I give you homework, we integrate different things, and that's where the confidence happens. We work through some of the insecurities, and I show you how to dress around those. And to me, by the end of that program, that is when women tend to sit really firmly within themselves, and they've got that inside knowledge, strength and groundedness combined with the outer color, shape, balance, fabric, all the rest of it, and they're marrying together more so. And that to me is really shining from within and sharing your what you're here to do in this lifetime.
And I think it's all that's right. It is a journey with the professional that you're going to. My coaching clients would say the same, that at the beginning they're going, what do you recommend? And then they'll go, what would Annie say? What reply? Until you get to the point of, oh, I just know now, you know. And so your clients, I'm thinking in a different way, maybe I'm drawing at this, but would be thinking at the beginning, I don't know, tell me, help me. I've got all these things. And it's kind of like, well, Jane would probably recommend, if I was at a shop, what would she pick for me? I think. And it'd be like, you know, you must get those moments months later where they go, look what I got. And I think you're so proud.
I do. And that moment is just worth every bit of it. And it's a different point for all. And I suppose that's always been my approach, which is where I've always felt like a salmon swimming upstream in terms of my approach to fashion, styling and everything, all businesses that I've had, is I'm about giving you the tools so that you can run and fly, as opposed to me me encouraging you to be reliant on me.
Yes, exactly.
Which
You
would
want to be sustainable, right? You're wanting that person to actually go, hey, it's your
absolutely,
life,
absolutely,
your essence. You want to be able to go, you've had this service, off you go.
off you go. And I think that's why I have actually long-term lovely relationships with women, because I'm, you know, to me in my head, one is an abundant line of thinking. It is, let me help you fly. I'll give you the tools to help you fly. And we check in along the way, and it's a very personal relationship-based situation. And the other is, okay, every season, let me take you shopping. That is encouraged. It's not really encouraging you and giving you the tools. And that's why my approach is, I've flipped it on its head, really. Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk business then, your business journey. What have been the biggest challenges when you start, you know, dabbling in business at, what were you, 16? And then you suddenly, you do your courses, you do the hard yards, you learn yourself, you then get the experts and information and you blend it together. And then you are launched in your profession and your natural flair and you're in your zone, but you also now have to learn about business. What were your biggest challenges in those earlier days, and what can you recommend to those listening in who are at that startup phase?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many, isn't there? There's a few in no particular order. Keep learning. To me, small business is about the owner and personal growth. So somewhere in your busy week, keep reading, keep doing workshops and short courses, keep learning and growing and being open. I look at people I you know, have mentored and taught. I've taught tertiary fashion for many years. I still guest lecture from time to time. When people are rigid in their thinking, I think that's very limiting. You've got to be a little bit open, not too loosey-goosey, but flexible, like a tree, like an oak tree. So there's that. Be aware of your costs. I think, especially as a creative, it's really easy to sort of be a bit...
Yes.
So
imagine that. You see that on the fashion shows. Sorry to digress there. You know, when you're watching a movie and they go, that's, you know, it's worth a such expensive silk or something and it's not quite right. So they chuck it away and have some more and have some more. And I, as a business person, going, oh my gosh, you've got to fund all that waste.
Oh, look, there's a story and you'll see with me, like I don't drop names, that's not how I roll, but I know a lot of people in the industry, and there's one very, very famous lady, and she used to say to me, oh, we'll just tell accounts that $200 a meter fabric was $20. We'll just tell them that, don't worry. And I used to go,
that matters if it's your accounts.
Anyway, nothing to do with me. I thought, yeah, your battle, I'm staying out of this. But
when that's your business, though, that doesn't work, because you're just buying yourself, right? It does not work at all.
So I think, to be aware and across, because as we know, in small business, costs can run away very, very quickly.
Yes.
So being across that, even if you have bookkeepers and things, I think really don't just handball all of that, like stay across. And if you don't know, keep asking, keep learning, and, be a self-responsible person like that. Exactly. It comes down to all of us being self-responsible. So I think that's a big one. And I think being able to be, like, one wonderful bit about small business is being nimble. We can chop and change and use jump on opportunities as they happen. What I found, though, is something I've done in the last, say, year to 2 years, is I have simplified life. I have brought it right back. At one point, I had 13 different offerings across my both businesses and whatever. Like, no wonder my head gets so jumbled. And that is part of being a creative, part of being an entrepreneur. I think, oh yeah, I could do that. Whereas I think, okay, bring it back to like making sure you have time every week to work on your business, not in your business. Be strategic, bring it back. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Stay true to yourself. That comes down to, now I don't overbook my time quite as much. I allow time constantly to allow for creative ideas, allow for reflection.
Yeah.
After years of working 1 million hours, you know, a week. So I was a buyer for a long time. For 11 years, I was a fabric buyer, which was a lifelong goal. Traveled the world all the time. It was amazing. It's full on, you know. And then actually I got very, very sick, and I had adrenal fatigue. I had 2 very serious cancer scares, and I realized I needed to change things. I thought a couple of weeks and I'd be fine. Of course, it was a couple of years. My phone went on silent for 4 months just to regroup. And that's when I created Intuitive Whispers, one business, and then have redefined how I offer my styling services in a very different way. And both businesses are that more balanced view of masculine and feminine energy and a way of doing business. And I'm anti-hustle. I'm anti-push, push, push. I share my message with the world, and when needed, I act, but I don't just push randomly in a scattergun.
Yeah.
I think that's the word. Because I think that is exhausting, and that's why one of the reasons why we get so exhausted. I don't think it helps anybody.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't help you for a start. And the evidence is when you just shared that, you know, you had 4 months off, you know, like, and I've been in contact with a lot of people who've had those same experiences. It actually is a total meltdown, breakdown, fatigue. It's a health concern, and it's kind of like, you know, that's right. As for those who are listening in and they're doing those early stages of business, and you never stop working, you know, there is consequence on your physical body, and it does, you know, come back to bite sometimes when you're least expecting it. Sometimes on the eve of an amazing fashion show, or something else, it's likely that it's not going to time itself well. And it's amazing how your head can actually go, I'm fine, I'm Miss Invincible, and then but your body is like, actually I'm totally exhausted. Plus getting savvy about one, becoming more acutely aware of, you know, who you are and how you actually are showing up every day, and how you are treating yourself and your customers. But I love what you said before, that scattergun approach. Exactly, because you're annoying those people. They're not ready for you. If someone's, you know, you've got a very specific market, we all do, and it actually is all about, you know, making sure that you're in front of that market. And if they're warm to that, then that shouldn't be hard. It should be.
I agree.
You know, I do the same. I rarely sell, because it's kind of like, it should be that if you're doing what you do well, and it's all very, you know, strategic, it's good marketing, placement, and all of those things, then those people will go, oh, I like that lady. They actually will come to you rather than you.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you, Annie.
Having to go, pick me.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's a process to get to that point too. I would 100% say that. Such a process. And I think this is the thing. It's a learning, continuous learning. It's not a one day you get it. You might have a breakthrough, but then it's 2 steps back the next day till you sort of keep going, you know. And we live in this society where you just, when you feel rotten, or something that comes to mind is, you know, I might get a migraine or my back or something. So you just take Panadols, or you take this, you take that, whatever. Whereas now I do the reverse. Now I make sure that I do things most days to keep me Jane. And that is priority. And when I am super Jane, that is when I give exactly what you've said. We attract the right people because we've been truly ourselves. We're not being, I liken it to, the old pinball machines where you're the ball and you're like, do, 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 and you're trying to keep everyone happy and you're running around like a crazy one. And I feel like I spent 20 plus years doing that, and that's okay. It's good experience, but then now I don't do that. Now life is different, and realizing you don't have to do that. And so part of this ethos is what I teach. Someone said to me once when she finished my course, she said, you don't write it on your website, but she said, you teach us to love our bodies. You are like chicken soup for the soul. And I thought, oh, that's a nice compliment. That's a nice compliment.
That is such a nice compliment, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to just love the skin you're in, even if it's not exactly the right shape and size that you like and you're working towards those goals. But that's right. Every day you go, okay, well, I'm actually, happy with who I am, how I'm showing up. And that will be the framework for all those other things that you're wanting to achieve. And the reality is, those listening in, and I know that some of you'll go, oh, that's easy for you older ladies, who worked, we all have to work our butt off in the early days. And yes, you do. You have to work hard. And, and I struggled at around 3 degrees and 5 kids and zinging. I was the wildest pinball. I tell you, Miss Capable. And yes, there are seasons that you go, well, there's no backup for certain things, but there still are choices. There's choices with how much you take on. There's choices with the ways you do them, which is why I now do business coaching for people to actually make the stepping stones quicker and easier. Like, don't waste all that time. I've done the learning curves for you, or there's science behind it, and so I think for you, that's right. It's about saying to even those younger clients, you can actually treat yourself kindly and your business won't fall away. If you invest in yourself, you will have more confidence, you will have more energy, you will feel more safe and secure, because that is burning a lot of energy, when you're not feeling comfortable in who you are, right? That's often the bit they go, I don't know what I do with my time. I go, because you're thinking so much all the time about criticizing yourself, what's not right. Whereas someone else, if you don't have all that mind baggage, you can actually just be. It's fantastic.
That is so spot on. It's such a simple sentence and a simple concept, but boy, oh boy, it's a really big one, isn't it, to get to that point and live it, like truly live it. Yeah. We don't need to have, because we live in this age of information overload. We have, and we're so contactable and all those things. So my word for this year actually is discerning. So it's about, do I need to read that? Do I need to see that? Do I need to be on that mailing list? All those things, making really present, conscious choices. And I think if you can bring it back to that constantly, that helps a lot. We don't need our busy heads any more clogged up than what they are.
Yes, I call them the major distractors. That's right. If you're in 50 groups, it's a lot to maintain. So, the inner young girl goes and says, oh, well, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to say no. I'm not kind. And all these things surface. And you kind of go, well, you're actually not, because when you commit to yes, then how are you showing up consistently in that space? So that's it. I think we're overloaded. I love what you've done in the last couple of years of actually, and I've done the same, just actually trim it back down, consolidate, do what you do well in business and life, and actually they're all choices that you make, and it doesn't make you not nice or not kind or not helpful or whatever. It actually means that, oh my gosh, when we both show up together, I'm totally focused, I'm totally
present, really present.
I'm very present. It's a win-win, and
it is a win-win. And it even as much as I think of like, I think we sit and fight for far too long. And when you're younger, the fashion industry, no one plans, everything's last minute, everything's urgent, and so you're constantly sitting in this state of flight or fight. And it's okay, and it's fun, and it's quite addictive.
But it should be short-term bursts.
It should be short-term bursts.
Otherwise, you do end up with adrenal fatigue.
No wonder we do. And so it was a real process to get to that point of going, how do I do this in a way that still feels right, that still feels me, that still follows my love of fashion, but not get pulled into that? How do I do it in a different way? Yeah. And still have a foot in each camp too, like to be part of that world. And one thing that comes to mind is, for those who are in the startup space, I remember when I first was starting up, you'd take client appointments almost any time they wanted to see you.
Yes. Sunday night, 24/7.
No. And because you'd think, oh, if I don't do it, And eventually I got to the point where I would not see clients, say, on a Monday, or certainly not on a Sunday. I stopped Sunday appointments, and funny things that I look back and think, oh my goodness. And so when you do that, it's amazing how they fit in. But it's you've got to sort of work through that yourself, I suppose. I'm sure you would find things like that as a coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Taking back your own, setting its boundaries, actually, is what it is.
Yeah. It's going all in and realizing some things are for short bursts, short periods of time, and they might be necessary. Maybe you do need to be available 24/7 to, or 7 days a week until for a few months, until you actually work out your flow and you get things done. That's right. We all know, your doctor's only available certain hours of the day. Well, we all seem to manage to still get there, even
if you don't cancel on that.
And you don't cancel on that, you make it happen.
Pay for it.
And then particularly I had that learning curve, I'd be, making myself more available than I actually was. But then that did have consequences. Was I available to my kids? Did I, did they have to wait? Did they have to this? And at the end of the day, I actually went, well, what is what you value? But I did value those other things. So it's about finding your balance in that as well, and honoring your time. And that's it. Even as an entrepreneur, it's kind of like going, well, if I'm going to be meeting you at 11 o'clock at night, one, it's not good for me. But also I actually, if I was billing myself, if I had my other sort of mindset on, that's a very high rate that I'm putting on that hour, right? And so it really is, I think, a big learning curve in those early days of what's required to get yourself started, to build the framework, but what actually will you consciously try and reset, make right, so that you achieve that balance and you do look after yourself, and all of those, I've been working with very high level successful people for, a good decade plus now, and they all, it's amazing, they take their breaks, they take this, I work with a lot of doctors and surgeons, they take their sabbaticals, they write things, they have a break, they reset their mind, they refresh, they go skiing, they take days. It's kind of like going, it's actually been a really great learning curve for me. Go, wow, these are people with top minds, they contribute incredibly, and they also are very disciplined in how they actually, make sure that they are at a good operating level. Right?
Yeah. And I think too, one thing that comes to mind with you saying that, and I love your overview with that, is I think life flows in seasons, and seasons within the year, but seasons of our life, like when I was not well, that was the time, and the should in me was like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. I did all these courses, all these things. It was so hard. What was needed was just let go.
Yes.
And when you're a little bit control freaky, which most business owners are, it's really hard to let go. But at certain points, we need to let go. And then at certain points, like you say, we need to be perhaps giving it our absolute all and being on deck.
Yes.
And in those early stages of business, you sort of do need that. You can't, it's really hard building a business part-time or that kind of thing. It really
absolutely.
But then you move through it, and I love like what you've said about your doctors, examples of allocating time on like seasonally, but also week to week, making sure that there is time in there for other things and resting the thinking, the grey matter.
Yeah.
Because I find I work in really good bursts. I really, and I block out all distractions, and like if I've got to write something, block out all distractions, usually do it first thing, go, and then take time off and go and do something creative, or go and do some exercise or whatever to balance it out. And that is a constant. That's one thing I've really realized is enormously important. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we could talk all day. Seriously,
I agree.
I've just had a little glance at the time and went, wow. So those listening in, this is what it's like. I feel like you're just listening in to us, just having a little chat at the coffee shop. Here we are online. How do people find you, Jane, and in your two different businesses, and what will they receive what experience will they receive when they go to one or the other?
Yes, great question. So these days, in terms of socials, I spend more time on LinkedIn. So under my name, Jane Vandermeer. On my website is finessebusinessandstyle.com. That's probably the best place to find me. If you'd like to join my mailing list, that's delightful. I send out emails probably once or twice a month. I promise I don't like being bombarded. I prefer to share considered communication. So that's for the styling. And if you're welcome to, there's a little section in there if you want to just have a chat and see if we're aligned. And I don't pressure sell, as you can hear. That's not my way. So feel free. And the other business is called intuitivewhispers.com.au, which is a natural perfume, oils and natural deodorants. Super proud. They are multi-award winning and have won. Yeah, it's a really lovely business, and that came out of my health scares over those times. And my signature product is called breast care deodorant, which is because I had so many breast lumps over my adult life. Yeah, so it's a pretty special product, pretty unique in the marketplace. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, both of those websites and all of your contact details will be on my podcast platforms, which is on my website, on Anchor, all on the major platforms, and also on YouTube for those of you who like to listen in and watch at the same time. So if you're at that stage that you go, you know what, I'm just not showing up because of just the way I'm feeling in my garments, in myself. It could be your shape. Maybe you put on some pounds during COVID. Hey, don't worry, we all have. Maybe it's just been something that you know what, this is the way I am, and it's probably not going to shift, and it might not change. But how do I actually make the most of what I've got? And I'm 100% confident that Jane's just got the right heart. She's got the experience, 30 years of experience, but she's actually got the right heart and soul behind working with women to actually meet you where you're at, and then just start talking through that. So yes, you'll get styling advice based on who you are and what you're wanting to achieve, but you'll also I know you'll have a big journey through processing all of those things that you hope no one notices when you show up. You want to get to a stage where you go, you know what, it doesn't even matter if they do, and they're not that big anyway, because I am here and I am present and I am me. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. So encourage you to reach out to Jane. As usual, always reach out to me at Women's Biz Tribe or Women's Biz Incubator. Come and join me on my platforms, and I look forward to sharing with you again next week. And thank you so much for joining me on my program today, Jane. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much, Annie. It's been just beautiful. You're an incredibly inspiring soul, actually. I've really valued the time with you, and so thank you so much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I look forward to watching your future success, because we're always evolving, and I look forward to sharing with you a lot more on all of our other platforms. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbons.com, where you can download my free resources, Get connected on social and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes and, of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.